She's ignoring you, isn't she? That gut-wrenching silence, the unanswered messages. What if I told you that agonizing moment is not your defeat, but the exact moment you truly begin to win? Forget what she's not saying. What if her silence actually triggers a predictable, almost scientific, series of powerful psychological stages deep within her mind, hidden stages of doubt, obsession, and eventual regret that most men never understand? This isn't about playing petty games, it's about understanding real power. Today, we are decoding the female mind and the Stoic art of absence. By the end of this video, you will not just understand her silence, you will learn how to make it your greatest and most formidable weapon. Let's begin the masterclass. Have you ever wondered what really happens in her mind when you just disappear from her life? And I'm not talking about pulling back slightly for a day or two. I mean you completely, utterly vanish. No texts, no calls, no contact. What would she truly feel when you are well and truly gone? In today's world, where people so often and so easily think they can take others for granted, let's flip the entire script. Learn to disappear with purpose, and I promise you, her perception of you will be shaken to its very core. This video isn't about playing manipulative games. It's about profoundly understanding human behavior, especially female psychology, and how that intersects with something most modern men have tragically forgotten: the Stoic art of emotional self-respect. Not coldness, not detachment in a negative sense, but real, grounded, internal power, because when you stop contacting her, and you do it from a place of quiet strength rather than simmering pain, something absolutely fascinating begins to happen. She starts to notice, not always right away, but eventually, inevitably, she will, and the way she responds, whether in subtle digital shifts or outright moves to get your attention back, tells you everything you need to know about where she truly stands and how much your presence really meant to her all along. So before you break the silence, before you give in to that powerful urge and hit send just to see if she still cares, you must watch this, because what she does next is often highly predictable. If you know what to look for, and if you know how to recognize these signs, you'll never fall into the same emotional traps again. Let's break it down, stage by stage. Stage number 1, the silent watcher. The very first thing most guys miss when they stop contacting a woman is just how closely and how quickly she often starts watching. Not in an obvious way. You likely won't get a direct text that says, "Hey, I miss you," or "Why aren't you talking to me?" No, it's far more subtle than that. Suddenly, she's one of the first people to view your Instagram stories again. Maybe she hadn't watched them in weeks, but now, every single story, every new post, she's there. A silent ghost in your digital life. You might post something completely random, and she'll tap through all of it, maybe even come back to it later. You post a gym selfie and, out of nowhere, she likes it. But not today's post. Of course. No, she's digging 2 or 3 weeks deep into your feed to like something old. That's not a coincidence. That is a deliberate, digital breadcrumb, a clear sign on the trail of her growing curiosity. And what's really happening here is crucial to understand. When you go silent, you create an information vacuum, and most people, especially those who were used to having your attention, absolutely hate the unknown. They will often try to peek back into your world without actually having to step into it and risk rejection themselves. It's a very low-risk, high-information move for her. She doesn't have to message you directly. She doesn't have to make herself vulnerable. But she can still check to see if you've moved on, if you're hurting, or if you've already replaced her. This behavior is deeply rooted in both psychology and ego. The consistent connection you once provided triggered a dopamine feedback loop in her brain. And now that you've cut that loop, Her mind instinctively searches for ways to keep it alive. Even passively, social media gives her that perfect one-way window. Now here's where most guys completely mess up. They see this sudden digital attention as a clear invitation. She viewed my story twice in an hour. Maybe she wants to talk. And boom, they break their powerful silence. They send a hopeful message. And they completely destroy the quiet, magnetic power they were so carefully building. Do not do that. Her watching you is not an invitation, it is a reaction. It means your absence is being felt, and that is the very first sign that your silence is beginning to work. Let her look, let her wonder, because the second she realizes you're no longer chasing her anymore, her perception of your value and her anxiety about losing you starts to shift, quietly but unmistakably. Stage number 2, the test, probing for a reaction. Once she realizes you're not reaching out, not chasing, and definitely not begging for her attention, she starts to get genuinely curious. But curiosity alone often doesn't satisfy the ego. She needs confirmation. She needs to know if she still has a hold on you. So, what does she do next? She starts to actively test your emotional control. This might look like a random, low-effort, "Hey, text at midnight," or a weird, out-of-context emoji that doesn't make any sense. Sometimes, it's even that classic, "Oops, wrong number," message that says something like, "Sorry, that was meant to send to someone else." Sure, it was. Totally believable. These aren't just random texts. Gentlemen, they are bait. She is casting a line into the water to see if you will bite, to see if you will break, to see if your silence was real, deep-seated self-respect, or just a temporary, tactical performance. Because if you respond instantly, if you act like you've been sitting by your phone just waiting for her message, then in her mind, she is still in complete control of the emotional dynamic. But here's where the Stoic mindset separates the boys from the men. The Stoic man doesn't flinch at the bait. He sees the test for exactly what it is, a probe. Not a genuine olive branch, not an attempt at a real reconnection, but just a reflex action on her part to try and reclaim the attention she has lost. And this is important. It doesn't necessarily mean she's an evil or manipulative person. It just means she's human. Most people do not like losing their emotional leverage over someone they once had it with. So they send out these little signals, hoping to provoke a response. And when they don't get one, that's when the real, profound shift starts to happen within them. If you react, even politely and casually, you break your frame. You confirm to her that she still has easy, on-demand access to your emotions and your attention. And just like that, the balance of power tips right back in her favor. Instead, you must hold the line. Let the message sit. You're not ghosting her in the traditional sense. You're simply not rushing to validate a vague, low-effort attempt at connection. When she realizes that you're not emotionally flinching, that you're not scrambling to decode her every emoji, that's when a new kind of respect for you begins to grow. Your silence has now turned from a passive absence into a powerful, active statement. You're showing her, without needing to say a single word, that you are not emotionally available on her command. And for many women, that kind of unshakable, self-possessed strength is far more attractive than any "good morning" text ever could be. Stage number 3, the seeds of doubt, questioning her own decision. Now here's where things start to get really interesting inside her head. After the initial curiosity and the failed subtle testing, a new, more powerful feeling begins to creep in for her: doubt. You see, when you stop contacting her and she sees that you're not chasing, not playing the expected game, not trying to fix or explain anything, her mind starts doing what all human minds do when left with a profound, unexplained silence. It desperately tries to fill in the blanks. At first, she may have felt a sense of relief when you disappeared, finally. Some space, she might have thought, or perhaps even a little bit of pride, confidently thinking that you'd be the one crawling back to her within a week. But that initial, ego-driven high never lasts, because underneath all that surface-level pride, there's still the emotional brain, and the emotional brain absolutely does not like uncertainty, especially when it used to feel so important and validated in your life. This is where genuine regret starts to stir. Psychologically, we are all hardwired to reassess our own decisions when the outcome doesn't match our expectations. She likely thought you'd be blowing up her phone by now, maybe even begging her for another chance, but you didn't, and now, that space she thought she wanted so badly suddenly feels a little too big, a little too empty, a little too permanent. This isn't just anecdotal. Studies in behavioral psychology show that when people get used to a consistent dopamine pattern, like the emotional highs of your attention, your validation, your affection, and then it's suddenly and completely gone, they can go through a kind of mini withdrawal, and that withdrawal triggers reflection. She starts thinking about how you used to check in on her, how you used to genuinely care, how she used to feel safe and secure in your consistent presence. And that's when the real, hard questions start to bubble up. Did I overreact? Was he actually that bad? What if I completely misread everything? It's not that she suddenly, magically realizes you're perfect. It's that your powerful, unwavering absence gives her absolutely no new evidence to justify her original choice to leave or pull away. That silence becomes a powerful, unflattering mirror, and in that mirror, for the first time, she is forced to see her own emotions, her own actions, more clearly, without you there to soften the blow. And here's the twist: the longer you remain still and silent, the more that insidious doubt grows. It's not about punishment, it's about giving her the gift of perspective. Sometimes, the only way someone can ever truly see your value is when they are forced to live without it. And your silence gives her the uninterrupted space to feel that loss for herself. Stage number 4, the mirror game and how she loses. Once that seed of doubt begins to set in, her next move is almost always predictable. She starts to mirror your behavior. You're being quiet, so now she's going to be quiet too, but in a performative way. You're posting gym selfies and quotes about self-discipline. Suddenly, she's doing the exact same thing, making sure her posts are visible to you. It's not a coincidence. This is a fascinating phase where she tries to reclaim a sense of control by matching your perceived emotional detachment. In her mind, she thinks, oh, if he's going to pull back, then so will I. We'll see who flinches first. It becomes a game of silent, psychological standoff. Both of you are now pretending not to care, while at least one of you is quietly, desperately hoping the other one breaks. And on the surface, it might look like she's completely unbothered. She's out with her friends, posting beaming smiles, living her best life. But here's the secret you need to know: the louder the show, the deeper the internal dissonance often is. Because if she was truly, genuinely over it, she wouldn't feel the need to mirror you at all. She would simply move on with her life, without a second thought for what you were doing. What's really happening here is a form of psychological mimicry, an often unconscious attempt to regulate her own emotional discomfort by imitating your perceived behavior. Our mirror neurons in the brain are highly attuned to social cues, especially from people we were once deeply, emotionally connected to. So while it might look like she's winning this no-contact game by being just as distant as you are, what she's really doing, psychologically, is trying to regain her own emotional equilibrium. She wants to see if being just as distant as you will either finally push you to break the silence, or somehow give her back the upper hand in the dynamic. But when you continue to hold the line, when you don't cave to the pressure, and when you don't even seem to react to her mirroring game, something inside her inevitably starts to break. And when you continue holding the line, when you don't cave, and you refuse to react to her passive-aggressive mirror game, something deep inside her inevitably starts to break. Her attempt to regain control by matching your energy has failed, and this failure often triggers her next, more desperate set of moves. Eventually, the emotional pressure inside her will build. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but it will, and when it does, she'll almost certainly break the silence. Usually, it's not with a big, dramatic confession of her feelings. No, it's often something far more subtle and strategic. It might be a casual-sounding text message, "Hey, I saw something that reminded me of you," or "Just wanted to check in. Hope you're good," but you must understand what that message truly is. It's the first visible crack in her composed mirror. It's her final, cautious way of testing the waters again, of trying to feel if you're still there, if you still care, if she still has a hook in you. And how you choose to respond in that single moment defines the entire dynamic of your future. If you rush in with relief and emotional energy, you instantly reset the old, disempowering pattern. But if you remain calm, grounded, and unbothered, you have officially, powerfully, and permanently shifted the frame. And trust me, she knows it. This brings us to stage number 5, the last stand. She tries to reclaim control. At this point, if she feels like she's completely lost her emotional ground, if you haven't taken any of her bait, if you haven't folded under the immense weight of your own silence, she often starts reaching for the last and most aggressive card in her deck, direct emotional manipulation. This time, it doesn't come in the form of cute texts or subtle social media stories. It often comes in the form of sharp, reactive statements designed to provoke guilt or anger. She might say things like, "I guess you never really cared about me at all," or, "Wow, it didn't take you very long to move on and forget everything. Did it?" These are not genuine expressions of her hurt. They are finely crafted psychological jabs, designed with one purpose: to throw you off balance, to make you feel defensive, and to pull you back into the old emotional cycle where she always had the upper hand. At its very heart, this is her way of trying to rewrite the entire narrative. If she can't get your attention through softness and curiosity, she will desperately try to get it through guilt and accusation. And this, right here, is where a lot of good men finally crack, because nobody likes to be misunderstood or falsely accused. When a woman you once cared for accuses you of being heartless or indifferent, the natural, human instinct is to defend yourself, to explain your actions, to fix the misinterpretation. But you must realize that doing so hands the control right back to her. She's not trying to start a genuine dialogue. She's trying to provoke a reaction. Your frantic attempts to explain yourself only prove that she still has immense emotional power over you. That's no resolution. That's a complete regression back to the old dynamic. A stoic man, however, sees right through this. He knows that just because someone sends him a message steeped in their own pain, it does not mean he is obligated to absorb that pain for them. In fact, if you look closer, these messages are rarely about you at all. They're about her, her profound loss of influence, her deep discomfort with your newfound stillness, her desperate struggle to feel relevant in your world again. Because your silence didn't just create space, it powerfully exposed an emotional dependency she likely never expected to feel. And now that she can't control your response, she's left alone with the one thing she thought she'd never have to face, her own gnawing uncertainty. The best thing you can do in this moment is to remain composed. Not cold, not cruel, just crystal clear. You don't need to defend your peace. You don't need to explain your silence. You're not ignoring her to win. You are simply no longer available for emotional manipulation. And that single, powerful shift reclaims not just your control, but your fundamental self-respect. Stage number 6, the unspoken shift. She respects you more. By the time she's tested you, mirrored you, and tried to reclaim control with guilt, and still finds you completely calmly unmoved, something profound, something irreversible, begins to shift deep inside her. She may not say it out loud. She may never even fully, consciously admit it to herself, but she starts to respect you more. Not because you ignored her, not because you won some petty game, but because you did not let her chaos pull you out of your calm. In a world where most men are so quick to fold at the first sign of emotional drama, quick to argue, to explain, to beg, or to chase, you did the one thing that completely caught her off guard. You stayed centered. And that is incredibly rare. Women, on a deep, biological level, are often wired to seek and value emotional strength in a man. Even if they don't consciously realize it, when she sees that you can hold the tension, that you can sit in the uncomfortable unknown, and that you do not break under her emotional pressure, her subconscious mind reads that as immense power. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more stoic you become, the more unshakable. The more focused on your own path you are, the more genuine respect she often builds for you. Whether she ever expresses it or not, that respect doesn't always translate into a romantic reconciliation. It doesn't mean she'll come running back, confessing her undying love, but it does mean that you have left a permanent, powerful imprint on her mind. You've become the outlier in her emotional experience. The man who didn't beg, the man who didn't argue, the man who valued his own peace more than he valued her fleeting approval. She may not say it out loud, but she will carry that memory of your strength with her. And every future man who crumbles at her tests or desperately chases her will only serve as a pale comparison, reminding her of the stark contrast. That kind of internal shift in her perception of you is far more powerful and lasting than any clever response you could have ever typed out in a weak moment. Because now, she knows you're not just another guy desperately looking for validation. You're grounded, you're solid, you don't move unless there's a good reason. And that reason is no longer her approval. That's the moment she sees you not as someone reacting to her world, but as a man fully, powerfully anchored in his own. Whether she comes back or not at this point is almost irrelevant. What truly matters is that you stop trying to prove your worth. And in doing so, she finally, truly felt it. The final lesson, what you should do during her silence, the Stoic path. Now, this entire time that you've been holding back from texting her, watching her patterns shift, noticing her silence grow louder, the crucial question becomes, what are you actually supposed to be doing during all of this? Because no contact isn't just about passively sitting in a room, staring at your phone with monk-like stillness, hoping she notices. That's not stoicism. That's just emotional paralysis. A waiting game. Real stoicism isn't passive. It is an active, relentless discipline. It's about consciously redirecting your focus from her back to you. This is the part most guys skip, and it's precisely why their silence eventually turns into weakness or simmering resentment. The truth is, if you're not actively building yourself up during this time of her absence, you're not truly practicing no contact in a powerful way. You're just avoiding contact while still being emotionally stuck. And that's a huge, critical difference. This is the moment to upgrade every aspect of yourself. Not for her, not to show her what she's missing, but for you. Pour all of that anxious, emotional energy you were once spending on her into the gym. Feel the burn, get stronger. Pick up that book you've been ignoring for months and expand your mind. Start journaling, not about her, but about the man you want to become. the future you want to build. Take cold showers if you need a hard reset for your nervous system. Or sit in quiet stillness and meditate if your mind is racing. Track your thoughts, clean up your physical space, reconnect with your life's purpose. Every single time you feel that powerful urge to check her story, you must instead go do something that strengthens your own identity. This isn't about distracting yourself from the pain. It's about powerfully refocusing your lens from what you've lost to what you can build. The more full, the more focused, and the more purpose-driven your own life becomes, the less a single, delayed text from anyone can ever possibly shake you. Because now, you're not sitting in a state of emotional limbo, you are in powerful, forward motion, and authentic, purpose-driven movement breeds undeniable confidence. Because here's the secret no one ever tells you: when you finally stop performing for her attention, and you start showing up fully, powerfully, and authentically for your own life, that self-possessed energy becomes undeniably magnetic. Whether she senses it consciously or not, she feels the shift. Women are often incredibly intuitive about this. They can sense when a man is no longer orbiting them. And ironically, that is often the very moment they feel most powerfully pulled back in. But by then, if you've done the real work, it won't even matter to you in the same way, because you will have tasted your own power. You will know, deep in your bones, that the silence didn't just get her attention, it rebuilt the man who used to give his attention away far too easily. Conclusion: the true nature of your power. So, now you know, when you stop contacting her, your absence doesn't just disappear into thin air. It powerfully shifts the energy. It triggers curiosity. It forces tests. It plants doubt. It incites mimicry. And sometimes it even provokes desperate attempts at manipulation. But most importantly, it gives her the one thing she never expected to feel from you: the profound absence of your neediness. And that single shift changes everything. You didn't react, you didn't chase, you let your powerful, dignified silence do all the talking. And in a world where most men crumble under the slightest pressure of emotional withdrawal, you stood your ground. That's what Stoicism really is in practice. It's not being heartless or cold, it's being centered. It's silently, powerfully saying, I don't need to prove anything to you. I already know who I am. And sure, she may come back, or she might not, but either way, if you've used this time wisely, you have already won, because you didn't just sit passively in the silence, you used it to completely rebuild yourself. You became stronger, sharper, calmer, and whether she ever says it out loud or not, she will feel it. So if you've been thinking of texting her, don't. Not yet. Let her come to terms with who you are now. Let her be the one to reach out to the new version of you. The one who no longer needs that text to feel whole. And if this video helped you to finally realize that, then I want to give you a very strong call to action. First, hit that like button if it reminded you of your own inner strength. Second, share this video with a brother who you know needs to hear this message. Someone who might be standing in the quiet right now, questioning his own worth in the face of silence. And finally, if you're ready to continue this journey of self-mastery, subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications, because this is just the beginning. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is one thing you will do to focus on yourself? Starting today, let's hold each other accountable. I'll see you in the next one. Stay grounded, stay focused, and stay dangerous in your peace.